Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hugnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter, ThunderCast_pod, and listen to the show anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcast. But, of course, you can watch these beautiful mugs on the ThunderCast YouTube channel. It was a little bit of a long week, a little bit of a longer bit of preparation for this midweek showdown against Coastal Carolina, a team that we are looking up at in the standings right now. And we've got all the stats, info, analysis, and everything else that you want for this game preview, but we can't do any of it until we pay a couple of bills. Russ, hit me. Give me a quick word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Found them at 304carwreck.com.
All right, the last time we checked in on the herd, they were coming off the heels of a thrilling homecoming victory, and now we're trying to take it down to South Carolina in an SBC East Division showdown against Coastal Carolina, a team that has been a bit of a thorn in the side of the herd since we joined the SBC. I still don't know why, and maybe you share this sentiment, maybe you don't, but Coastal is one of those teams that I don't dislike, even though they've really ruined some games for us. They took us to the woodshed once down at their place, kept us out of an SBC championship game 2-3 years ago. But for still some reason, I'm just kind of indifferent towards them. Do you share that, or?
Yeah, there's not a lot of people or teams in the conference that I really genuinely dislike or root against or anything. But they're not one of those that I'm like, hey, Coastal lost, or hey, Coastal won. Yeah. You know, it's just like, oh, Coastal played. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean,
right.
It's just,
same thing.
There are other conference mates that have had, a longer history with them that have issues with them. But
oh, for sure. Yeah, like App State and Coastal is a big deal. That seems to get heated, as we saw last week. And I didn't see anything. Actually, I didn't really think to even look for it if there were any suspensions from that post-game fight or whatever they call it, brouhaha, whatever you want to call it.
Saw.
Oh, okay, good. Because it's not something I really wanted to see. It was just a curiosity of, wow, what had happened, because that got heated pretty quickly, but whatever. And yeah, there are some teams that I wonder if they lose week to week in the conference, but I mean that, I don't mean that disrespectfully either. I haven't formed an opinion on Coastal yet, I think is where it's at. But regardless, we've got a Thursday night showdown. It might as well be a trick or treat type deal. October 30th, 7:30 p.m. at Brooks Stadium. If you're not going to be making the trip down to Conway, South Carolina, of course, the game is going to be on ESPN2. So you get a nice primetime feature on a Thursday night to showcase what this herd offense can do against Coastal Carolina. It's going to be pretty awesome. So let's get into some of the things this deadmeatsociety.com Marshall football preview. Herd opened at 3.5, and now
3.5.
Herd minus 5.5 currently as I was doing my prep. Over under still remained at 55.5, with the herd having a, what is that? I keep calling it the ESPN Power Index because that's what it was. For
FPI.
Yeah.
FPI.
So same thing, probably Football Power Index.
Yeah, it is.
71.3% chance to win for the herd. So big turnaround over what we've seen the past 2 weeks for Marshall, being home underdogs, now going on the road as a big-time, at least Power Index favorite. This will be the fourth all-time meeting against Coastal Carolina for the herd. They're 1-2 all-time, 0-1 in Conway, although we did win last year 31-19. Of course, that game was on 75 week, where we saw the J.J. Roberts, Jacoby Henderson all-time play with the field goal block return for touchdown. Awesome, awesome play. But the one I was talking about earlier, where they kind of took us to the woodshed a little bit, was in 23 in Conway, 34-6.
It could have been a lot worse, too. I mean, it was a bad beatdown.
Yeah, that was not one that many herd fans want to relive or even really think about. So this is a little bit of an opportunity for some vengeance, a little revenge, because there probably aren't too many players remaining on the Herd roster from just 2 years ago in that game, which is wild to think about. So what is Coastal? They're 4-3 and 3-1 in conference. So the overall is the same between the Shants and the Herd, but 3-1 in conference for Coastal is pretty damn good. That's why we're staring up at them. Right now, they're sitting all alone in the second place in the SBC East. We are currently third. So they're fresh off the heels of a pretty impressive win in Boone, North Carolina, a 45-37 victory. But just 3 weeks ago, 47-7 beat down by the hands of Old Dominion, in which we know how we played against the Old Dominion. So
right.
Who is this Coastal team? Really? Do we even know who they are? Do they know who they are? This is a really big several bunch of question marks, I think. Russ, do you have any insight after talking to the guys from the Strut podcast the other day?
I do. The big deal is, they've had quarterback problems all season long. They started out MJ Morris. They had Hudson in there, I think it was, and then now Samari Collier. Samari Collier, after that 47-7, just absolute destruction, he came in and now they're 2-0, and some of their stats have changed. Their offense has changed. The way that they're playing their offense, getting more production out of everything, has led to them doing better on defense, is what the guys from the Strut were saying. And if anyone is watching this right now and say, hey, I want to hear what those guys have to say, get on over there. You can listen to it and find it on YouTube as well. It's a good listen. It's about 45-50 minutes long. But yeah, totally different with bringing in a new quarterback, kind of similar to us, only ours happened much earlier in the season.
Yeah. Again, Russ is talking about the get to know series that we do on the ThunderCast. Well, he does on the ThunderCast YouTube channel. So you can go over there to the channel and you'll find that episode, so you can get a little bit of insight from a Coastal Carolina standpoint into their own team versus just what we're going to be talking and how we see things. The big bullet points in this game, I think right at the top, you have to talk about it, and it's not an angle that a lot of people that I've seen have been talking about this week on social media, and that's the fact that head coach for Coastal Carolina, Tim Beck, used to be the offensive coordinator at NC State. So if there's anybody that really has good insight into the defense that Tony Gibson runs, it would be Tim Beck. But of course, if there is a coach that has really good insight into the offense that Tim Beck runs, it's going to be Tony Gibson. Those guys were coordinators under Dave Doran for many years together at NC State. So that's an interesting tidbit that I don't know why that's not being talked about more, because that's really two chess pieces that are big-time chess pieces in this game.
Coach Gibson actually touched on it briefly in one of his press conferences, and he said, yes, I'm familiar with his offense. Yes, he's familiar with my defense. We'll probably have to change some of the names of the calls that we do. And he said, I look for them to do the same too. It's interesting. Coastal's going to be running a 3-3-5. We're running a 3-3-5. There are a lot of parallels between these two coaching staffs.
Yeah, and like you mentioned before I started talking about coaches, the quarterback situation is very, very similar. As I got into the prep for the show, the guy that's being featured on ESPN is Hudson, Tad Hudson, because he just happens to still be the leading passer. But then you go back and you look at the previous two games and you're like, well, he really didn't play that much. They got Collier coming in here and things have kind of turned around. So it's just another interesting parallel into the two season journeys of both of these teams. Also, like I mentioned before, Coastal's in second place in the SBC East. This means a lot for Marshall, because a win will put us into second place in the East in a tie, but owning that all-important tiebreaker. A loss will put us in we'll still be in third place, but we'll be tied for third place with Old Dominion, and of course we will still own the tiebreaker over them. So you can't say that you lose and it means nothing, because it absolutely means something. You want to get this all-important tiebreaker over the teams ahead of you, especially with James Madison still on the schedule.
And as we are recording, it's Tuesday evening. When you're listening to this, that James Madison game may already have happened. But right now we are recording right before kickoff So, we are going with they're still in first, Coastal still in second, we're still in third.
Yeah, that's an excellent point to make. I'd totally forgotten that JMU was playing on a Tuesday night, so that will potentially affect some of this commentary, but not much. And the last thing I think we want to talk about a little bit is that there's been a really big grassroots movement to turn this into a 7th home game for Marshall. The fans really want to take over the field down there in Conway. And it's not a very large venue. Again, this is not smack talk. It is just not a very large venue. I want to say, I'm going off memory, I thought it was about a 17,000 seat capacity. Is it bigger than that?
It's around 23-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And on the Strut podcast, I gave them an over-under of Marshall fans attending there of 2,200. All three of them plus me, we all took the over. So that would put us around, at least, if that happens, 10% of their stadium crowd, which is pretty significant.
It's absolutely significant, and especially if this Herd team comes out and gets rolling and you get those guys engaged, and all of a sudden, I remember a game many moons ago, Russ, where we, as the Herd faithful, took a trip up to Athens, Ohio in the late 90s, and we didn't have nearly that type of percentage in their stadium. It was not 10%, and we silenced that Athens, Ohio crowd, and the Herd really took over. The Herd crowd really took over that entire stadium, and we were bunched into an end zone. And if you get that type of environment, then that's just so deflating to a home team, especially in prime time. That's going to start to hurt, and it's going to start to sting.
Yeah, 21,000 is their capacity. I just looked it up. I think that they have hit around that 23 to 24 previously. Of course, that's going to be standing room only and things like that.
Yeah. But still, that tells you that the attendance isn't generally very high. If your capacity is 21,000 and you're not filling the stadium game in and game out, I mean, let's face it, we're not here to pat ourselves on the back or anything, but Marshall kind of sleeps 21K. It doesn't matter too often. It can be a pretty bad season and a pretty inferior opponent coming in, and Jones C. Edwards Stadium will probably still have at least 21,000 people in it. So that's just something to be aware of. It's not like if you've got, say, 4,000 Herd fans, you're probably not going to have 13,000 Coastal fans. So, but still, something to keep an eye on. They really want to turn that into a 7th home game for the Herd and really take a home field advantage down a little south, and we'll see if they're able to do that. Let's talk about this injury report in this deadmeatsociety.com Marshall football preview. Marshall still has just a handful of guys. We've got 4 this week. 3 remain the same, or actually all 4 remain the same from a week ago. The big one, of course, Mike Allen is still listed as out. All 4 of these guys are listed as out, by the way. Outside linebacker Rashawn Carr, Jalen Marshall been on the injury report since we started seeing injury reports. Offensive lineman Peyton Ellis hit it last week, continues to be on it this week. I guess what you've got to say of note is offensive lineman Morgan Scott has been activated for the first time in probably about a month off of the injury report. And so we have traded one O lineman for another. We get one back. Coastal Carolina has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it looks like, on their injury report. Only 1 listed as out, and that's inside linebacker Wyatt, I guess it's Gideon. Wyatt Gideon. You got 2 more that are listed as doubtful. Offensive line, Zach Elam. The big one, though, is inside linebacker Shane Bruce, third leading tackler on this Coastal Carolina defense with 34 total tackles, 18 of those solo, and he's come down with 2 interceptions. So if he is indeed not able to go, pretty big impactful loss from the second level of this Chance defense. Then you've got a couple more that are listed as questionable. Wide receiver Colton Hinton is questionable, but again, the big one there will be wide receiver Malik Mega, third leading receiver on this Coastal offense, 10 receptions, 111 yards, and a touchdown. So if he and Mr. Bruce are both a no-go, that's one decent-sized weapon on either side of the football that the Herd will have an advantage with. And then lastly, you got a specialist, Phil LaForge, listed as probable. I foresee many of these guys being upgraded and playing.
There is another very peculiar thing here. Tad Hudson was talked about by the coach as, he's had this injury and they didn't know if he was going to play. He's not listed even as questionable on here, which is wild to me because the league, said, hey, there would be repercussions if people tried to hide injuries, and this is the entire reason that we're rolling them out. So I would look for him to play just based on what the coach said. But it is peculiar that he was not even listed, yet he was the focus of the discussion that, I don't want to talk about listing his exact injury, but he said, I think he'll be able to play.
See, I think that's easy to hide when you talk about a quarterback because you can dress the guy and just never play the guy. And then that forces your defense to have to game plan for that particular quarterback. So probably a little gamesmanship by Coach Beck. You can't really blame him. You're going to play to the edge of the rule without violating the rule. Any good coach would do that. I wouldn't expect anything less from our coaches as well, because up to the edge of the rule is still in compliance with the rules. But let's talk about Dead Meat Society real quick. We continually appreciate those guys for coming on board with the ThunderCast this year and sponsoring all of our football game previews, sponsoring that visitor's guide for any out-of-town fans that are coming into Huntington for Marshall football games. Dead Meat Society is such a cool brand. I call them a lifestyle brand, and that was kind of confirmed and agreed upon by Chief Grilling Officer Jake Kuhn when he was in town. Very, very cool brand. If you're into grilling and tailgating and smoking meats and just cooking in general, this is a great place for you to start your journey or continue your journey, take that journey to the next level. deadmeatsociety.com. You can sign up for the Dead Meat Spam, their newsletter that drops every Thursday that's absolutely free, that is chock full of all kinds of great information where you can share recipes and gear reviews and all kinds of stuff. I know you are a little closer to that culture than I am. I enjoy eating the food. You really enjoy preparing the food.
Yeah.
So when it comes to sponsors, I don't think that there has been a sponsor of our show that has been more in your wheelhouse than the Dead Meat Society. So you can give a foodie's version of what they bring to the table.
Yeah, I just want to say when Jake and I first talked about this, it was his idea that this was kind of seamless with the ThunderCast, with the tailgate that we do, and he said, I think this is just right up your guys' alley, right up my alley. It's a great fit. So we're glad it worked out. But I tell you, there are people that are watching right now or listening right now that I have personally talked to about their love for all things cooking, whether it's indoors, whether it's outdoors, whether it's at the tailgate, whether it's a campfire, whether it's in their own kitchen. Mm-hmm. And the Dead Meat Society definitely hits on all those notes. You can find recipes, you can find tips, you can talk to people that have custom built smokers. So if you want to get into that and, say, what are some things that I should know? And they'll say, here's what I wish I would have done. Here's what I love that I did. So if you're into this culture, this is the biggest no-brainer ever because every single thing is free. Now, they do have some awesome gear, a lot of apparel that's already out and gear that is getting ready to roll out any minute, and it's badass. It looks great. And I think if we just get that weekly word from them, from this commercial that they have, we'll head right on back into the football talk.
Sure.
Ever since the discovery of fire, mankind has gathered around it to prepare food. And today, we enjoy fellowship with family, friends, and even strangers as we cook and grill. At home on the weekends, at tailgates for sporting events, and just by ourselves to find inner peace. We have holidays centered around the custom of grilling. And now there is a society for those of us who like to grill, who stay up all night to get that smoke ring just right, who share their gifts with others. The Dead Meat Society is here. Flame, family, community, feed everyone.
Once again, deadmeatsociety.com. Go over there, join the mailing list so that you can get the Dead Meat Spam and get your journey into this culture rolling. Those guys are so cool, and we really appreciate them being such a strategic partner with us and helping us bring you these Marshall football previews. But let's talk football, and it's going to start with this Coastal Carolina offense. We've talked about the quarterback situation. I'm going to feature two because you kind of have to feature two, but it's going to start with number 10, the quarterback, Samari Collier, the guy that's been getting the nod the past couple of games. It's really been the spark of this offense. They've seen more production, more points. So you got to go with the hot hand. This is a 6'3", 225-pound senior. 17 of 34 on the season for 155 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Another 33 carries on the ground, 162 yards with 3 touchdowns on the ground. He has been sacked 3 times. 2 of those came last week against App State of note. You got to talk about number 12, the quarterback, Tad Hudson, who was the leading man up until the past couple of games. Another 6'3", 225-pounder. He's a sophomore, though. 56 out of 103 for 447 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. You may see Hudson take some snaps. He may get in there for a series. You've got to think he's going to be the first one off the bench if something happens and Collier has to exit. So we have to talk about both guys. And we're going to talk about a couple of running backs as well. Number 5 running back, Javin Simpkins, 5'9", 190-pound junior, 61 carries for 360 yards on the season, 5.9 yards per carry, but just 2 touchdowns on the ground. Number 27 running back, Dominic Nicely, another 5'9", 185-pounder this time, a freshman, 46 carries for Mr. Nicely, 264 yards. That's good for 5.7 yards per carry, but just 1 touchdown on the ground. And a couple of wideouts we're going to talk about. Number 4 wide receiver, Bryson Graves, 6', 180-pound junior, 19 catches, leads the team, 158 yards, leads the team, has not found the end zone to this point. And then wide receiver, Robbie Washington, a 5'11", 180-pound sophomore, 15 catches on the season, 157 yards, nipping at the heels for the team lead, and he has 1 touchdown. When you talk about the notes for this offense, Coastal Carolina offense, they're scoring just 19 points per game. That's a whopping 120th in the country. They're not really that great on offense as a whole. So just bear with me here. I think a lot of Herd fans are going to like these numbers. Total yards, 306.9 on the season. That's 123rd in total offense. Rush yards per game, 171.2. That's 71st in the country. And pass yards per game, 135.7. That's 129th in the country. Third downs, not much better, 36.5%. That's 102nd in the country. And turnover margin, not great at all. -6 for 120th in the country. Russ, what do you know about this Chance offense?
Well, so the offense kind of came alive the last 2 games. They scored 23 in that game against ULM when the weather was horrible, where it just seemed like offense was going to be at a premium to try to get. So they were happy because 23 was bringing their per game average up quite a bit. And then they exploded last week. Only 15 offensive touchdowns on the season through 7 games. 6 of those came in last game. So their total offensive identity has just absolutely changed. They have struggled passing. They have not struggled rushing. Their rushing has been augmented now with Samari Collier coming in. Already leads the team with 3 touchdowns on the ground, and he is their 3rd leading rusher and basically playing only 2 games. So it is a different offense that we are changing. These stats do tell the entire story, but they have improved over the last 2 weeks. So it's just something we got to keep our eye on.
Yeah, you can't deny the fact that this offense has been better the past 2 weeks, and they got better week over week in that 2-week span as well. Now, the one thing that is the wild card in this one for me is I don't really know how good or bad that App State defense is, but I do know that Boone, North Carolina is a tough place to play. Now, when you throw in that, rivalry type things, a lot of things get evened out, but I really don't know how vaunted this App State offense or defense is. So I'm taking that with a grain of salt. I think Coastal Carolina is better. The stats say they're better. Their point totals say they're better with Samari Collier behind center, but I don't know how good they are. And so I'm being a little bit reserved I don't think we're going to see another 45-point explosion. And even if we do, I think we see the herd with like a 60-point explosion, if it's something like that. Let's talk defense now. Number 6, safety. Zamarion Gordon, 6'2", 215-pound senior, leads the team 37 total tackles, 19 of those solo, 4 passes defended, 2 interceptions on the year, and a fumble recovery. Next leading tackler is number 2, a cornerback, Jamarian Wayne, 6'2", 208. He's a senior, 35 total tackles. He leads the team with 21 solo tackles and 5 passes defended. Remember, back to the injury report, we're wondering if inside linebacker Shane Bruce will play in the game. He is the current 3rd leading tackler, but we're going to feature 2 more for you in this defensive breakdown. We're going to go number 55 linebacker Trey Brown, 6'1", 235-pound junior, 31 total tackles, 20 of those solo, a sack and a half on the season, a pass defended, and a fumble recovery. But get this is where ESPN got me. I don't know if they got me. They list him as having a fumble return for touchdown, but when you scroll to the bottom for the team totals, they have 0. So did he or didn't he? I guess Coastal fans know. And then the last one we're going to feature is number 9, safety Dre Pinkney, 6', 205 senior, 31 total tackles, 18 solo, and a pass defended. When you talk about impact plays for Coastal Carolina through 7 games, I don't think it's very impressive. We got 12 total sacks, 27 passes defended is really solid in my opinion. 6 interceptions, 6 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, and maybe it did, maybe it didn't happen, fumble return for touchdown. So I don't know that those numbers blow me away, but they're not horrible. When you talk about notes for this defense, points allowed, 28.29 points is 94th in the country. Marshall scoring 35 points a game across the season. It's more than that over the last 5 games, of course, and that's 30th in the country. Yards allowed by this Shant's defense, 407.7 yards allowed per game. That's 111th in total defense. The Herd's getting 388. That's 67th total offense. Pass yards allowed by Coastal, 229. That's good for 82nd. Marshall's getting 192. That's 100th in the country. Rush yards per game, 180.3 is what Coastal's giving up. That's 109th in the country. And Marshall's ripping off 196 yards a game currently. That's 29th in the nation. Third down stop rate for Coastal Carolina, they're giving it up 40.4% of the time. That's 82nd in the country. And while that sounds all right, Marshall's only converting 35% of the time for 115th. So what will we see? Russ, what do you got? What perks you up about this Coastal defense?
Zeke Campbell has 4 sacks, and that's somebody there that we have to watch. He looks like he has been a bit of an impact guy by himself. They only have 12 sacks on the season, and I believe 4 of those, let me see, I've got it written down. Yeah, 4 of those were in the last game against App State. So they were even worse on getting back there for tackles for loss, even worse getting back there for sacks. They have gotten beaten up pretty good on defense, and they're giving up, as you said, 28.3 per game. But in the conference, they're right there, 28 a game. Last 2, 22 and a half. So that's been trending down. They really got beaten up a lot. And that's what the strut guys were talking about, is their offense being able to stay on the field a little bit longer, has helped their defense out a lot. So they're trending in a better direction, but they don't have the stats there really showing anything that they have. They're not a big takeaway team. They're not a big impact play team, like you said. So if we can get some yards on them and win the field position, we should be able to score pretty well.
Well, Marshall has been trending quicker, I think, on offense since CDRW took over. And now you're looking at game number 3 for Samari Collier. That's really where we started seeing the offense kind of go to town for the Herd too. So not that I'm saying that will happen this week, but I'm also saying that it won't, because he's now in a 3rd game in this offense. They're kind of rolling. They're kind of clicking. Is this where it opens up a little bit more? They may or may not be without a weapon or two. So there's a lot to take into consideration here, and I just don't know how much of it right off the bat is going to be able to continue for Coastal Carolina once they face this herd. I mean, I don't think that right now, if you get into it and this is a shootout, I don't think that they have the firepower to outshoot the herd. But if they happen to have a wonderful defensive display, you never know. I've got
before you get into special teams. Sorry, I just got another thing here. I just want to point out in their 3 losses, Coastal's been outscored 133-14. That's an average of 44 1/3 to 4 2/3 points per game. In their 4 wins, they've outscored their opponents 119-65. 29 3/4 a game by 16 1/4 a game. So it's kind of like a tale of two different things here. There have not been a lot of close games. They've just been blanked and blown out, or they have handled their business. So it's, again, it's trending better for them the last 2 weeks, but they still only won 45-37 last week. So that was their only real shootout. They've been either handled or they're handling other people.
Yeah, give me one of those 40-4 games this week. I feel like I feel like we deserve that after the 34-6 game from a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
like to hand that. Now, the only special teamer I'm going to feature is their place kicker, Kian Afrukate, 5'8", 195, junior. Perfect on the season. 7 of 7 on field goals with a long of 44, 16 out of 16 on extra points. Obviously somebody that you have to account for. The dude's perfect. He just hasn't, I mean, maybe they weren't moving the ball to get him into field goal range enough early in the season, but it certainly looks like if they can get him within 44, he's going to get him some points on the board. So you have to pay attention to that.
And I asked the guys why he had a long of 44 and was perfect. Was that like his range? And he's excellent. He's he's on target. But when you get longer, he's a little bit unreliable. And I said, or is it a situation where you haven't had that come up? You've been so far behind that a field goal doesn't mean anything, so you're going for touchdowns, or it's a tight game, but you really need to pin them back with a punt. And they couldn't recall if there was ever a situation that called for him to try one from 45 on. But they do like him as a very accurate kicker, and his stats sure show that.
Yeah, I would tend to think that, I mean, I know I'm not a kicker, right? But it feels like if you can hit from 44, you can probably hit from closer to 50. So you got to respect that range to just inside 50. What I know it's easy to say it's just another 5 yards, but at some point you're 1 yard too long, right? But I feel like you can push your limits to right around 50, which I think we deduced a couple of games ago. That was like, that means your red zone is essentially the 35-ish. So another thing to keep aware of. But let's talk about the 4 big things that we think are the most important keys to victory in this Dead Meat Society Marshall football preview. What's your number 1 this week?
It's containing Collier on the ground. Force him to beat you through the air and make sure he doesn't become an additional running back, because they're already doing pretty well with those top 3 running backs that they have. And you throw him into the mix and he leads them with rushing touchdowns. So if you can force him to throw through the air, right now he's still only 50% on the season, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. It's not like he's been absolutely crushing it through the air in these 2 games. He only has around 133 yards, something like that, in the 2 games through the air.
Yeah. I tend to agree, obviously, because it seems like what is making their offense go at this point. Now they have some ancillary weapons that obviously can rack up some yards for you. They got 2 really capable running backs to get things going. And you don't want to be facing a 3-headed monster, which is exactly what teams have been facing when they play us. They can't seem to take CDRW out of a game through either phase of his game. And that, of course, allows guys like Joshawn Barbie and Mike Allen and Antoine Roberts to get some chunk yard plays. And it's all predicated on the fact that, you have to account for CDRW. I think my number one key to victory this week for Marshall is on offense. I think you absolutely have to exploit that disparity in the run game defense of Coastal and the run game offense of Marshall. You're talking about the 109th ranked rush defense versus Marshall's 29th ranked rush offense. We know that the Herd loves to run the ball, and we know that they love to run the ball a lot. So that's got to be your bread and butter this week. CDRW has seemingly gotten better and better and better through the air each week, but I think it's all predicated on the fact that you have to respect the run game in order for him to have cleaner pockets, to have better throwing lanes, all that kind of stuff because of his ultimate threat to take off and run. But if I'm Rod Smith, I'm ganging up to make them stop me in my run game, without a doubt. What's your number two?
Well, hard to agree because that was my number 4, so I'll make it my number 2. I put eat them up on the ground. You have 4 running backs and a quarterback that can share the load and keep fresh legs. Now, we're down Michael Allen, but we have 4 in there that are very capable of giving the other guys a rest, and I think that plays pretty big, especially when you have a quarterback that is so much a part of this rushing offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big time. Number 2, though, you were talking about stopping Collier and forcing him to beat you with the pass. I said that a couple of games ago, and I regretted saying it. I said that against Texas State. But I think you have to do it, and that you have to step it up in pass defense. Marshall has been exposed, and that's not the wrong word to use. They've been able to hide behind a potent offense, and I don't know that you're going to be able to do that down the stretch. At some point, we're just going to have to play better pass defense. We cannot continually be gashed in these short pass and yards after catch, and then the busted coverage, bad angle, over the top play. I mean, it's coming from all angles. It's not just one thing you can point at and go, that's the continual problem. It's short, intermediate, and long passes expose this Herd secondary. Yeah, they'll come down with an interception or two, and they'll make a play out of it. But 400 and some yards against Texas State, gross.
444.
Gross. So if you've got a guy that is starting to come into his own and getting more confidence in each game, last thing I want to see is a Samari Collier come out and rip off 350 yards passing. That's and right. Be playing with an extreme amount of confidence heading into what potentially could be a tight game in the fourth quarter. I need to see the guys like Braden Ward harassing off of that front line of defense so that maybe guys like Boogie and Dave Twan are able to come down with an errant throw. I mean, you're 50% completion percentage. So that's not what I would consider picking a defense apart, but we've seen the Herd defense get picked apart. What's your number 3?
Well, mine tied in exactly to that, but I tied it into my first one. I said make him, force him to beat you through the air. So my original number 2, but my third is the defensive backfield has to come up big. It's at that point in the season where we need to improve our passing yards against. We're giving up over 300 yards per game passing through 4 conference games. Coastal has struggled passing, and we need to help them continue to struggle. Just to highlight it real quick here, overall, 276.3 passing yards against Marshall per game. That's 128th in the country. The conference games, 302.33, so it's been worse in conference. And then the last 2 games, 355 yards. Now, that's up there a lot by that 444 performance by Texas State, but still, it's there. It shows that you can get exposed. We were worried about their running game coming into that game, and they torched us. And we've had too many times, like you said, that we've been torched in the defensive backfield. So we've got to come up big.
Yeah, that's I think in all the facets of the Herd game, that's the one that scares me the most is consistent pass defense. We're just not seeing it. My number 3 key to victory this week is keep scoring. Just keep on scoring. Marshall, as I mentioned earlier in the defensive stats, is scoring 35 points a game which is 30th in the country. But averaging 43.8 points per game over the last 5 games and 46 points per game against Sun Belt Conference opponents.
Mm-hmm.
That is the trend that you want to see. You're talking about nearly 10 points a game more against conference opponents. Man, you just got to keep on scoring. Nobody right now has figured out how to keep the herd from scoring, especially since CDRW has taken over behind center. I think the only way that you can derail this herd offense is if they have a goofy game with a bunch of turnovers, or you knock CDRW out of the game. And we've seen him go out and come back in. He's like ironclad to a degree because he's just so damn tough. But you gotta keep scoring. That's what allows your defense to take punches, give up points, and you're still ultimately okay. What is yours?
Well, did I accidentally send you my notes? Because my final one was keep the offense flying high. We are scoring over 35 per game overall, 46 in conference play. But I went on to say Coastal has scored 38 or more only twice. So if we can continue where we're scoring, it'll be a game of can their offense get up to where we're at. They have given up, on the other hand, 37 plus points in 4 of their 7 games. So if we can score, we should be able to keep outscoring them. They've done it one time here, 45 points. We're averaging 46 in conference play. That does have some overtime involved in that, but that's the way it rolls, man. 46 a game for us, and they're struggling to put that up.
No, you didn't send me your notes, unfortunately. It's just that we're that damn in tune with the way we see the games. My number 4 key to victory is stay focused on the prize. Ultimately, it's a win. It doesn't matter where you play or who you're playing. The prize is you keep winning, you land in that Sun Belt Conference Championship game. This is just the next speed bump in the road. This is a team that you're currently looking up at in the standings, and you need a tiebreaker over a team like this that's offensively starting to catch fire. They're already 3-1 in conference when their offense wasn't that damn good. So now they're getting better. You would like to think that they're going to keep winning games. If you think, all right, well, we beat App State in Boone. We took down Marshall, even though we took Marshall down with this high-powered, high-octane offense. That's a real confidence builder if I'm a Coastal Carolina fan, because I'm thinking, okay, we can run the table now against kind of everybody else. I think they closed the season with James Madison, so that'll be a good one to keep an eye on in the final week. But you got to stay focused on the prize. You win this one, and it's just the next step, one step closer to a championship.
The other thing that I want to highlight for my final little thing, it's not a key to victory, but just to sum all this up, is they played a very bad South Alabama team, and they won. They played a pretty bad ULM team, and they won. They played what has been a week-to-week, just a toss-up in App State on are they going to be an awesome team or are they going to struggle? And that's their 3 wins. The only like opponent so far that we played in conference is ODU. And we handled ODU, and they handled Coastal way more. Yes, before the quarterback change. But, the defense did not handle ODU like we handled ODU.
That's what I was going to say. A quarterback be damned. That's not stopping the offense from scoring. Yeah. They still gave up 47 points to Old Dominion. So that's what I'm saying. Like, who is this Coastal Carolina team? I don't know what I'm getting in them right now. So, and that's part of the scary part of it is are they now good and nobody knows it yet and we're going to find out, or are they still suspect at best? And it's just going to be another week of I saw Coastal fans a couple of weeks back were like, geez, man, can we do we can't score. This guy was supposed to be the answer to the offensive questions, like talking about Coach Beck. And now it's like, oh, we can score. Oh, so
Well, also MJ Morris, everybody thought that he was going to light up the league in the Sun Belt Conference. I can remember when we were thinking, hey, would we have a shot at MJ Morris coming here? And a lot of people did, and Coastal landed him, and Tim Beck was already familiar with him from being at NC State. I think everyone just assumed that this was going to be a much different offense, and it has taken them a while to find their identity.
Yeah. Over half the season, and now they start to look like they have one. Let's talk about your MVPs. Who's your offensive MVP this week?
It's Barbie for me. I'm going with that. Ride the running back room, ride that rushing attack, and I could see him against this defense that has struggled mightily at times against the run. I could see him racking up some good yards, busting a long chunk play or two, and maybe getting multiple 2 to 3 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, golly, came up clutch in the overtime periods last week, and that was fresh off of being activated from the injury list, another week healthier, actually more than a week. Yeah. So good pick. I'm still riding CDRW because I think in this showdown of quarterbacks, it's going to be which quarterback has the overall better game, meaning who accounts for the most total yards, touchdowns, and fewest turnovers. And CDRW has been brilliant in all of those categories this year. Samari Collier is maybe starting to find that, but his TD to interception ratio is not anything like what CDRW's is. And the added benefit of a deep running back room with the X factor of Floyd Lacey, I got to go with CDRW as my offensive MVP pick. I think he's going to rise out of this quarterback battle. Who's your defensive guy this week?
Well, we said that we needed to have somebody from the defensive backfield, and I'm going to pick Cam Smith. He's been ultra solid all year long. He's had a couple of things where he was either one of our defensive player of the weeks or he got announced by the team or conference. But I'm going with Cam Smith with a big game. He's been almost at times like an extra linebacker in his position. I think he's been probably the most steady out of all of them. Maybe not the most flashy, but the most steady.
Yeah, good pick. I'm going Javay Gilmore this week. He had a big game last week against Texas State at homecoming, 12 total tackles. I'd like to see that carry over to this week. I need a guy that's big and tall and athletic in the second level to assist in that pass rush, to pick up these running backs out of the backfield, slow down this kind of opened up Coastal offense. I think Gilmore's kind of hitting his groove right now. He seems like my guy. Who's your special teams guy this week?
I'm going Lorcan Quinn. We've had special teams play for spades every single week, but I'm going with Lorcan Quinn. He's got the hot foot, and I'll pick him because I don't think we'll need to punt as much to get Totten. So that's who I'm going with.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of scoring opportunities for Lorcan Quinn. He's my guy, too, this week, fresh off of that Sun Belt Special Teams Player of the Week. So keep the hot foot rolling and give me Lorcan Quinn. How about a score prediction?
Man, I was all over the place with this. I ended up at 34-24 Marshall. I think that we're at least a touchdown better than them. Even though it's at their home field, I do think that our crowd impacts it a lot. I'm going 34-24.
It's the first time all season that I have gone in by the Herd in a big margin. Give me 42-20, the Herd in Conway, South Carolina. I think we get a couple of turnovers. I just do not think that Coastal will be able to effectively slow down this Thundering Herd offense. Any final notes on this one before we get out of here this week?
No, if you're going to the game, make sure you're loud. Tailgate for all of us. We want to hear it on the TV, as we that cannot go have to watch from home.
Yeah, this was awesome. I've been looking forward to this one. Little trip to the beach here for the Bison, as the title of the episode ensues. Russ, I got nothing. I'm just ready to watch some football. Take us out of here.
Yeah, so whether you see us at the Joan, whether you see us at the Jack, or whether you see us all over Brooks Stadium, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It's the Thundercast. We'll see you for a recap on Friday. Later.